The views expressed in this show do not necessarily reflect those of the Armenian Council for Truth in Journalism or any other TMI affiliate.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Diamond of Truth, where I, Starski, will once again play ball. Today, we're going to kind of do it a little bit different. We're going to bring on a couple of council members, and we're going to talk about some current events. There's just too much kind of going on we're still going to use history, and we're still going to touch on some of the stuff that we've already delved into, but we are going to definitely bring up some clips on some current events. We've had the Beirut explosion since the last show. We've had Australia going into, Melbourne and Victoria going into ultra lockdown. Censorship is still, thing. I don't know, I don't know if it's my account from before or whatever, but it just seems kind of crazy. Now this week, I wake up on Monday and I got a 60-day ban from going live and advertising for a meme from 2018. And I'm not saying I'm over here speaking truth or Alex Jones or anybody, nothing like that, but it's just a little strange and odd. But before we get started, we're gonna do the whole shout out to the sponsors. We're gonna bring in Flickwix here. Make sure you visit the I think it's, let me see if I can get that going real quick.
Visit us at shop.flickwick.com. That's shop.flicwic.com.
Again, it's just a lighter holder, hemp wick lighter holder. You don't smoke the butane, and it's safe because you can snuff out the fire pretty easy. And we're just going to move right along, though. Actually, before I do that, I will say shout out to the ACTJ page. Go check out their page. They're being kind enough to donate their hour right here to give me a little more exposure. But go to their Facebook page, and on there you can click the button on top, and it'll take you to the Teespring page where you can buy some pretty dope-ass T-shirts. Anyways, all that stuff just helps support so we can keep doing this. These are some crazy times, so we want to keep doing it. So, and that's going to take y'all's help. But without further ado, I today decided that I'm going to put it all out on the line. I'm going to give an addendum to my crazy banking conspiracy theory. So I tried to get into the history of bankers and financiers and how they've used, institutions to kind of just manipulate our culture and things of that nature. And to me, it seems like right now is the pinnacle of what they've been trying to achieve for a very, very, very long time. And it seems like they're, if you're of my mindset, and I hope I'm wrong about all of this shit. Let me just put that out there. These are just observations that I see. But with that said, this is how I see it. I see that these people have had a lineage of taking over countries using debt-based currency. and that's kind of been the battle for the last 300 years for humans. And what they did is they gave us these illusions of revolutions, and they changed monarchs into corporations. They're the exact same thing, except one's legal and the other ones weren't. And now they're using this pseudo fascism while creating all of these world events, because the banks have to finance all of the wars. So every war technically is a banker's war. I don't think nobody really wants to go to war. Yeah, of course there'll be skirmishes, of course there'll be disputes and things of that nature, but the level of war would not be there without an orchestrated arm. And I just wholeheartedly believe that the bankers are behind that. And I know that this is some pretty crazy radical shit, but nobody really knows where their money even comes from. So if you talk to Americans or you talk to other people, they really think the government is involved, and they're not. And I'm gonna start off with a clip here right now, and I'm gonna show you that. So I'm gonna share this bad boy. Let's see. This is the part that I got to get a little bit faster at, but y'all are gonna bear with me. All right. So this clip right here, this is our boy Alan Greenspan. And he was at the time that he made this comment, he was the head of the Federal Reserve. The question that was asked to him is, what is the proper relationship between the head of the Fed and the president? And this was his response. This was his response. He really didn't give a shit.
First of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter.
He goes on to say that they don't frankly matter. So that preceded the 2009 bank bailout. So after all of the shenanigans that they did leading up to that crash, then they were the ones that got bailed out, not the people. And that's because the whole system is orchestrated by them. It's designed to do this. And so they already anticipated this. So this is what I think. This is what I believe now. I believe that they understood maybe about 60, 70 years ago when they decided to go off, when they started to make the dollar based on the petrodollar. I think they decided that they weren't going to be able to do this much longer. And so you can't just say, oops, it was our bad, we've destroyed the world. So what they're trying to do now is to reset the financial system. We cannot continue to have a debt-based system the way that it is now. And so with this reset, you're going to need, you can't just come out in the open and say that. So what you're going to need is a cataclysmic event, either one that just happens naturally or one that they are creating. So right now, I believe that they're creating this event. With the lockdowns and the economies going bad, that's going to be a reason to change the financial system in almost every place. Then you add this virus, whether you think it's a hoax or not. The reaction to it seems to be the hoaxy part, but that's causing more problems down the line. But the key to it this week that I kind of put to is this notion of food supply. Because the same people that did the banks also have now taken complete control over our food. We no longer raise livestock. We no longer grow our own foods. With the advent of the supermarket back in the 20s and the 30s, we've gone away from this farmer lifestyle that we used to live as humans. And what this has done is it's allowed them to really, really create just a lot of fear, because and a lot of poverty, because with the control, what they're doing right now, the Beirut bombing, that's right where they had their food silos, so they don't have any more food silos, and luckily, not luckily, I don't know, it depends on how you want to look at it, because they were already going through what we're all going to experience soon, which is what's called hyperinflation. The Fed is just printing money out of nothing. So right now they've printed 10 trillion this year. In 2009 they did like 5 trillion. This shit is not how you do currency, but that's not, we're not going to go that deep into it. But what we're going to add to the whole mix of this virus, corona, and this financial reset that we're experiencing is this idea of food and food supply. Because what they're doing in California, where they're not allowing farmers to grow, should be one of the most scarier things. Like, they're not allowing them to produce. They produce 25% of our fruits and nuts, and also a bunch for the rest of the world. And they're shutting it down because of this virus that at the moment is estimated to kill, 0.27, 0.3, depends, 0.4, depends on who you look at, or depends on the range that the CDC put out, actually. But if the food supply chain breaks, it doesn't matter how rebellious we want to be or how much change we want to bring forth. We have no ability to grow our own food and provide for ourselves longer than 4 or 5 months if everything shuts down. About 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, we sold all of our food silos that were stored with grains to China for cash. We never saw any of that. But this is my new. It's an old idea. I still definitely think that the banks are going to cause a World War III. But I think how they're going to effectuate, how they're going to actually make it happen, is what I think has been a little more fine tuned. And I think about it, I'm like, well, why would they do this? Like, why would they go through these drastic changes? Why would they need to reset the system? And one of these ideas, these old ideas that seem like it's a new idea, just like eugenics or any of these things, all you have to do is just go back to the early part of this century and you'll find out its origins, who it was, the lineage, all the way up. And one of those ideas that is being touted by the likes of like an Elon Musk and his wife or girlfriend, I don't know what they are, Grimes or whatever, is transhumanism. And that's, if you don't know what transhumanism, let me give you a little entry clip here that I have. Like I said, I gotta definitely get a little better at this part. Let's see. All right, I got it up there. All right.
The term transhumanism was coined by biologist Julian Huxley in 1957, who defined it as man remaining man, but transcending himself by realizing new possibilities of and for his human nature. Julian Huxley was the brother of Aldous Huxley, who you may know as the author of a very famous book, Brave New World, which is a vision of the future that most people view as the New World Order.
All right. And with that right there, I'm going to go ahead and bring on co-host of the ACTJ and kind of the granddaddy of it all, the grandfather of them all, Troll Master Sean.
Hi, Lou.
How are you doing, man? What do you think so far about what I've presented?
It's the best show you've ever done so far. I'm enjoying everything.
I think you're just you'll get that check in the mail. I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure. I've heard that before.
So a funny thing about Julius Huxley is he doesn't get spoken enough about it, but he was a really big proponent to this eugenics and this idea of why are they doing this? Like, they have all the power, they have all the control, they own all the property, they own everything that's important. Why do they continue to do this? Why do they want to make this world into this futuristic world? Why do you think, before I'll give you my opinion, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think it could be argued on a few different levels that the world is a bit overpopulated. You have scarcity of resources. So I think when you deal with the global elite, people who have the power, the money, and the resources to implement policy, I think it's very easy for them to look at it and say, well, we need to move past humanity right now. I think it's to them it's a simple evolutionary process.
Well, they're further along than people think. I mean, the DARPA shit, with the limbs and the idea of linking yourself, that this is to carry on this consciousness. Like, at that point, if we're not holding on to anything that's really human, and everything's going to be synthetic in the future. Is that something that you would look forward to, or is this something that excites you, or is this something, because we're going to bring on in a little bit, we're going to bring on Thad, who is into computers, but how much into computers do you have to be to want to be transhuman at some point?
I don't know. I'm personally torn between a lot of it.
Okay, well then let's go back.
I can't really say with any sort of certainty how I really feel about it. I mean, I don't like the idea of wiping people out and machines taking control, but I also kind of view a lot of that as being an inevitability.
Do you feel there's a level of dehumanization that's going on between the government and the people right now?
Well, there's a lot of dehumanization going on between people and people. You don't even have to get into government for that to be happening. Yeah,
true. I mean, like that is something that is that's happened right away. Is the division, the division amongst us as just all I can speak of is Americans, because we get a short end of a stick because we have a true melting pot here, and we have to kind of meld it all together. And we had been doing a damn good job up until like the last 5 years. I feel, socially of accepting and learning how to accept and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But if I am correct, all the countries are working together to make things seem like it's a coincidence or there's a narrative to explain these things away. Like the whole Russia thing popping back up, China popping back up. China's constant, our break. Like at first they were like, oh, they're communists, and then next thing you know, they're our biggest trading partner. Next thing you know, all of our jobs are going over there, and next thing you know, the Belt and Road Initiative kind of excludes America from being a part of any future economic success in the world. It's to me, I don't want to sound like Alex Jones, but I am really, really fearful that in 5 years, America will not exist the way we know it to exist right now.
Well, I think that the American way of life, the idea of individualism, I think it runs counter to everything that these powers are interested in implementing. I don't think there's a lot of future for individualism in a technocracy. I think that's for sure.
Well, that's actually good that you bring that up, because we have a real current situation where we can point to and show you how they do this legally. Are you familiar with what's going on in Australia?
Yeah.
So, but before I get into that, actually, I'm going to bring on Thad, because I kind of want a little round table on this Australia thing. I want to get a little more people's ideas on this. I'm going to bring in Thad real quick. Thad, what's up?
Thanks for having me on. As always, man, I am chomping at the bit. I have a lot to say about your opening monologue there.
Excellent. I love to hear that. But before that, I just want to say this is Thaddeus, aka Nick Way, co-host of Thank You for Your Servers, constant contributor of nothing but hot fire on the ACTJ, and just basically the house smart person whenever we need a question asked behind the scenes. We're just like, Dad, what do you think of this?
Don't put that on me.
We're not the only ones. So
yeah, I exactly. People that just meet him do the same thing. So anyways, Dad, you said you had some stuff to say about it, but what I'm just trying to expose is like the real-time corruption tied into the historical nature of this concept, because the concepts that I talk about, you can call them crazy conspiracy theorists, but they say it themselves. I'm not saying it. I'm not the one that's out there, like just connecting dots. I love that meme where it's the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's got all the red ties and all that shit. That's how I feel on a regular basis, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like real explained conspiracies that these guys want to do. Like they have something called the UN Agenda 2021. They have something called the UN Agenda 2030. The financiers in 1920, they created something called America 2050. Like They have visions for us. They have a plan for us. And yeah, you know, maybe a YouTube may pop up or a Google may pop up, you know, that was unexpected, but they have a way of corralling it and making it a part of their system. So if they own the money, they can just buy you out no matter how successful you are. And if they can't do that, then they Nikola Tesla's you, or, you know, which basically just marginalize you in history, or whatever they have to do. They are the controllers of culture. They are the creators of culture.
I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire, which the sun never sets. The man who controls the British money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. That is Nathan Meyer Rothschild. So in a way, you're generally in the right direction. And these people are and have always been people who believe in the based on a concept written by Thomas Sowell about a conflict of visions. These are men who believe in the unconstrained and the constrained vision of man. And they ultimately want control because of that. For those of you who are not familiar with the constrained versus the unconstrained vision of man, basically the unconstrained vision of man is heavily dependent on thinking that human nature is inherently good and that there need to be no cultural or legal guardrails on man's activity in the world. Obviously, the constrained vision understands that human nature is what it is, and there need to be cultural and some other types of voluntary institutions to keep human nature at bay from its passions. The World Economic Forum, literally before this whole COVID-19 thing went global, basically had a conference talking about the Great Reset. It's like, you're right. They have been planning for this. They just didn't know it would drop into their lap. Now, I don't think bankers or banks want war, because honestly, truly, to believe that war is profitable for banks is to believe in the broken window fallacy. But I do understand that they do want to finance this very unconstrained vision, which is uniquely a Marxist vision of man, where they basically want you to be automatons, essentially, and they want Brave New World, essentially, because they want you subdued so they can do what they want to do.
But you're saying that they're not going to go as far as to like purposely create it. They're just going to take advantage of the situations. Because I'm just going to
yeah, because they live in the same world, right? Because here's the deal: if war gets really out of hand, particularly thermonuclear or even cyber, that's a bad deal. Even I don't care how rich you are, how much of a financier or master of the universe you are, you don't want to live in that type of world.
Okay, well then they just create. Okay, so we just had a show and where we hypothesized about what happened in Beirut, because that is a very curious case of who done how'd it happen, and also nothing really matches up to the weapons that we know. It had a certain blast radius, but there was no fallout, so we know it's not a nuclear weapon. So what could do that? And we see the crimson red cloud. Not a lot of people have seen something like that. So what is it? And then when you have the idea of these future weapons that, if you go back 20 years ago, there's people that are talking about it as it could never happen. You know, we're talking about the gods of rods. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but
we discussed that.
This is a weapon where you take a piece of metal that's dense in tungsten, take it up far enough, and drop it from high enough, it will impact at a tonnage that's replicable to what
you're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about a kinetic weapon. So we talked about this when we talked with the Libertarian Party chair from New Mexico, Dr. Lucchini, and he basically said, for all intents and purposes, not to kind of paraphrase, it's harder to do than we think it is. There was ammonium nitrate, but he is not willing to say that in the Beirut explosion, but he's not willing to say 100% that like there weren't munitions or that it wasn't set off on purpose.
Okay, but I brought that up because of this. It's like, okay, so now they may have this new weapon that can cause that much damage to a place, but it didn't really kill as many people as it could, or permanently damage them by destroying with radiation. Then you also look at something that's been popping up here and there. Of course, nobody's announced it, but we know that they have desires for it. It's the same thing with when you talk about, weather modification and geoengineering. They have stated that they want these things since the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. And they even went in as far as to actually seed clouds and do all this stuff. And China even said that they could do it where they kept the rain away while the Olympics were going on. So we know that they have some capabilities in these fields.
Yeah, these are all things that we can do based in science, right? We can cloud seed. We've been cloud seeding out in the Midwest and the desert Southwest for almost 100 years.
Okay.
So yeah, that is true.
Right. And so other weapons that's called direct energy weapons. It's based on more Nikola Tesla, the world being a fine-tuned node of energy where you can kind of shoot stuff up into the ionosphere and then kind of drag it back down as pure energy, share, not share, I looked at the screen, but we can freely disperse energy to people. So we have these things, these technologies, ideas. Now you see what happened you start looking at the fires in Australia, you start looking at the fires in California. You even go back to you can even go back to 9/11 and look at how those buildings were imploded and see that there might be the case to be made that there is something being used that we aren't familiar with, that they have these ways of destroying certain properties and certain things to manipulate it, but now we think that it's just happening because of the earth. So that's the problem, is that they've morphed, because we've been reckless and allowed the secret services to do this and allowed all these other places to kind of just do all these things in secret. JFK was telling us about it. They're doing too much shit in secret. And right now we don't know. There's no, I can't tell you, hey, they have direct energy weapons. And then you as a citizen go, no, they don't because of this. We're all just fucking blind right now. I'm the blind leading the blind, I feel like,
Well, all right. Well, let's slow down and let's start attacking these things a bit at a time.
Okay.
So on the directed energy weapon thing, that's kind of been an ongoing area of research for a very long time. The fact that you can basically put your Samsung or any type of inductive kind of phone on some sort of charger basically proves Tesla's theory. The only difference is that we're in close proximity, close contact, and there's been technology out there for a very long time where you can basically pull energy from the air and or direct energy to a spot or use it to charge things without you having to plug it in. That exists. Now, can they take that to the next level and do something with directed energy weapons? The U.S. military is uniquely capable of taking any type of commercial technology that could be used for good and create weapons, because that's their job. Their job is to create weapons. On the other issue of all these things that seem to be catastrophically going wrong, yeah, I'm not one that's going to subscribe to any of this stuff that says that this stuff is caused on purpose. The fires in California, Melbourne, and other in Australia and other places like that are generally human cause, but not human cause in the sense that you're saying. It's human cause because they're really shitty at forest management in a lot of places, because environmentalists are tree huggers and they don't want to burn down a tree.
Right.
But I love the fact that you do question these things and that you do bring these things up, because here's what it proves. It proves that the public isn't accepting a lot of the bullshit that the state tells them. And I actually appreciate that, because here's the deal. There's a lot of things that the state does that are just bullshit. They're bullshit. They're bullshit for a whole lot of reasons.
Okay, well,
on Earth, let's look at the fact that this COVID-19 thing. Now, the COVID-19 did not cause the economic turmoil and the economic catastrophe that is coming our way. Man did. And that's what kind of dovetails and actually kind of falls into your mindset about how a lot of this stuff might be planned.
Right.
I don't think it's planned. I think it's just there's an opportunity to really grab power here.
Right.
And that's what you're really trying to see.
Yeah,
that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to argue. I'll just respectfully disagree. Everybody knows that I do feel that this is a concerted effort that's been generational, and very, very, very orchestrated, I think. But let's just say, let's just for the benefit of the doubt, let's just say that it's a coincidence. This is still what they do. So now this is all global. So now I'm going to get into a current situation with this virus that you were just talking about, and show you how far they'll go if we allow them to. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that this is going to be Daniel Andrews, and he's the I don't know if he's the prime minister, but he's a premier, which I think is like a governor, I believe, and it's in Melbourne and Victoria. So this is him stating the battle that they're trying to battle. Before he does the rule changes, this is why he's doing the rule changes. And I'm just going to share this and see what you think about this. Of course. Bam. Getting a little faster.
report that
A little bit.
now, as a result of this global pandemic, has risen to 123. That is 7 more fatalities since our last update. That is.
I'm going positive right there. Okay, that's the numbers right there. 7 more, and it's up to 130, I believe, 120, 130, so something like that, right?
123 or 133, I don't remember.
Whew, okay.
In their 70s, 2 women in their 80s, 1 man in his 90s.
Come on, those are people that are just dying.
Dude,
No.
we're running into the same thing here in New Mexico.
Yeah, but now watch what they fucking do. So now, okay, we just heard what a pile of shit that is, right? Like that, it's not something that we can just, because those are still 7 fucking dead people that I'm sure nobody wanted to die.
Correct.
At the same time, listen to what he says that they're going to do to battle that right there. Where, by the way, these are still the same governments that have allowed corporations to put poisons in your food, poisons in your water, poisons in your air, poisons in the animals that you were going to eat. They allow McDonald's to exist. They allow Coca-Cola to fucking poison you. All these things, the fucking pharmaceutical companies are killing us. Everything kills you. Now, all of a sudden, one little thing that's invisible, everything's got to shut down. So okay.
Yeah. What should that tell you? Right. I mean, I'm not one to believe that it's by sheer malice, but understand.
It's
what does that tell you then? What does that tell you?
It's not telling me anything that I don't know since 2001, 2004. What it should tell you is that this is a little more controlled because they predicted 2020. If you go back and look at all their books, all their everything's always 2020. It starts 2050. It's over. So okay, let's go into this next guy because this is what that allowed them to do. Listen to these rule changes. This is a little longer. We might shut it down, but we're just gonna kind of go because this is what he just said. What he just said is that they're dealing with 7 new deaths, and most of them were fucking old. And he goes on to say at that point that most of them were in the at-home care situation, which is something that the New Yorkers know about because most of the people that died were in government or in those fucking homes where we don't know what the hell was going on because we weren't allowed to be in there. But anyways, that's another show. Let's go into this. That's the wrong one. Of course.
Made a number of decisions and I want to run through those for you. First of all, from 6 p.m. tonight, I'm declaring a state of disaster across Victoria. This will be in addition to the state of emergency that has operated throughout. This means that police and others have additional powers. We can suspend various acts of the Parliament. We can make sure that we get the job done. And there's no question about the enforceability and the way in which new rules will operate. Beyond that,
did they vote on this
I
shit?
have a new series of stage 4 restrictions to announce, and I'll do Metro Melbourne first, and then I'll go to the impacts for regional Victoria. So that state of disaster is from 6 p.m. tonight. Beyond that, the stay-at-home restrictions for Metro Melbourne will be enhanced. There will be additional limits to the 4 reasons to leave home. You will no longer be able to leave home or go any further away from your home than a 5-kilometre radius. You will not be able to be at any point more than 5 kilometres away from your home for the purposes of shopping for what you need.
Okay, we got to hit up on that one first.
Okay, so all right. First things first. First things first. Okay. Never. I don't take your attitude toward or your view toward concerted effort. Why? I worked in government. Governments are a bunch of idiots. Never ever think that what you could think as some sinister thing as something planned by the state. The state is stupid, but never underestimate their will and their desire to grab power when there is absolutely positively no reason to do so, and finding any excuse to do so. As for this shit, this is prison. This is literally what happens in prison camps.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand they're going back to their lineage, right, where they were basically a former prison colony. But I know this is terrible on a lot of different levels. But it's Australia. They don't have the constitutional protections, nor do they have the rabble rousers basically as Thaddeus Russell says, the pimps, the whores, the hustlers and the pirates and stuff that are the United States citizens. Ain't no one in America dealing with this shit.
Okay,
like people still do what the fuck they want to here. Despite all the Karens running around the street, motherfuckers still doing what the fuck they want to do.
I hear you, but here's the thing: are they still human? Do they still? Because we held these rights and these things to be inalienable and self-evident. So that goes beyond even the constitutions and the documents.
Yeah. States look at people as strictly actuaries.
Right.
That's always been the problem.
Now here's my other thing. Did Australians fight in these world wars? Did they fight in World War I and World War II? I know they fought in World War II.
Yeah, I know they fought in World War II. I don't know about World War I.
Okay, so these are people that have also gave for the betterment of the world in this paradigm that we're accepting, which is
But that generation is dead. As you can notice, half of them are dying. 7 of them died. Right? So I mean, that's part of how you get this shit. Their children now are in charge, and those children have lived in a Australia that is absolutely relatively prosperous since the 50s. They have no idea.
All right, let's listen to the next one, because right now he gave them a 5-kilometer radius. So and remember, 7 old people died.
Once per day, and they will need to secure
one person will be able to go shopping.
That are what you need
out of the household. Yes,
1 minute radius. In terms of exercise, recreational activity is now
the healthiest fucking thing you can do.
Allowed. You will be allowed.
Can't go outside and let the UVC or UVB like kill the virus. No,
it's insane.
In terms of exercise, recreational activity is now no longer allowed.
So we're taking away your yard privileges. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
taking away your yard privileges. That's what's going on.
You're in solitary confinement.
It's fresh air. It's a job.
Yes, absolutely.
It's in your local neighborhood.
He said just go and get some fresh air.
Or in your home, and there will no longer be able to be any.
Man, if you don't have a backyard, this is gonna suck.
Right?
Family or someone else. Now, there will be common sense exemptions for children who are being cared for and can't be left at home, things of that nature. But ultimately, when it comes to shopping, one person goes out once a day and stays close to home within 5 Ks. When it comes to exercise.
But what if you don't live close within 5 Ks of a mart?
Exactly.
Or any of that. It is staying close to home and only once per day and only one person. That is really very, very important as well. The whole issue of 1 hour really puts beyond doubt some of those recreational activities anyway, because you simply wouldn't be able to conduct some of those things in an hour.
Kind of being smug about it
Ultimately, all of these changes are about limiting movement. All of these changes are about limiting the number of people that we come in contact with. Daily exercise is just that. It's an opportunity to get some exercise. It is not an opportunity to live our lives as if this
did not catch
ever faced. Just to go back.
Okay. Stop this. Stop this now. Stop it right now. Okay. First of all, what we need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is this is Australia. Every Western nation that fought in the Allied powers of World War II against like fascism and that fought in the Cold War against communism are not the same as the United States. They don't even have the freedoms we have here in Canada. Let's all put that out there. So to them, this is complete. This is completely normal. This is like, oh well, the state said we should just stay in the house and stuff like that. You will get absolute compliance. Well, even here, you get absolute compliance.
They've got compliance, and that's why some of the fucking people there are so pissed off. And you know what is allowed? You can go to a bottle shop. Bottle shops are still open. How's that healthy? And you have football on TV. That's all they fucking care about. So if you have football on TV and liquor, you're good. And they'll
bread and circuses, my friend. Bread and circuses. That's where
we bring in the 1984 vision of this. But let's go on. I'm gonna see if he goes into the next one, because the you act as if this is just there, and I'm gonna blow your mind here in a second. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, because you said that this is Australia. Okay, well then, how about we go?
I said no. I said this is Australia, but also understand a lot of Western countries do this type of stuff. because they don't have our constitutional protections and they're not a nation of mutts like
hear
we
you.
are. However, I was very, very upset about how compliant we were when we started this shit back in March.
Right. And I'm going to show you how compliant we are with this, because this should blow your mind right here.
To put a 14-day mandatory quarantine in place. We need to make sure that quarantine becomes
this is New York
every day, that law comes to life more every day. So starting today, we're going to do something new in New York City. We will have checkpoints at key
Does that sound like Nazi?
points to the city. Travelers coming in.
I'm looking for Bruce Willis to show up
information,
because this is basically what's the name of that TV? What's the name of that movie where they locked down Manhattan for this virus? It wasn't I Am Legend. No, that was later. But I'm talking about like this movie where like,
you know who knows?
What is he, Bane? Is he locking down all of the island because he's like, you will not come here if you send anyone across these bridges. We'll nuke the bridges or something like that, or we'll kill the city. Or he's Bane. He needs a mask, and he'll be Bane, and he will have taken over Gotham City.
Oh, we got to find out. Sean, do you know
that? Oh, to the question of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't watch movies.
All right. You get sir.
You don't watch movies. Thanks for that, Sean. Get out of here.
Okay, so let's go back to this little clip here because you were saying that we have constitutional rights. Well, we also have a right. What is it? The fourth? Is it the Fourth Amendment or the Fourth Bill of Rights, where they don't? We have to search and seizure.
Yeah, that's fourth.
It's the 28th Amendment.
The 28th Amendment, the one that.
Oh, there's 28th as well. Okay, there's the fourth, unreasonable search and seizure, and then there's I guess the 28th.
Yeah. So let's listen to this
more every day. So starting today, we're going to do something new in New York City. We will have checkpoints at key entry points to the city. Travelers coming in from those states will be given information about the quarantine. They will be reminded that it is required, not optional. They'll be reminded that failure to quarantine is a violation of state law, and it comes with serious penalties. In fact, under certain circumstances, the fines can be as high as $10,000. So this is serious stuff, and it's time for everyone to realize it. If we're going to hold at this level of health and safety in the city and get better, we have to deal with the fact that the quarantine must be applied consistently to anyone who's traveled.
So you still don't think that this is coordinated?
No, I still don't.
What is it going to take to bring this in? So, well, anyways, I just wanted to show you that on New York. So this isn't just Australia that's doing this. I mean, we know about the Patriot Act here alone.
Ask anyone who lives in Southern California, particularly Los Angeles.
Okay, and then what is your response to the idea that it seems like they're also trying to make a global food supply shortage? Like they're trying to create so much chaos, and we know all the crazy conspiracies about order out of chaos and this, that, and the other. What do you think about all of this?
And nihilists, yes.
It's not just Beirut that blew up recently. I mean, in Wuhan there was an explosion. There was like 4 or 5 other explosions that were around the world in this last month.
They're scaring the shit out of the world in general, right? So, I remember watching in the beginning of this when Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan talking about in his fight against wanting to just reopen his factory down there in Silicon Valley, where he was just like, you do understand that like if people don't make stuff, there won't be stuff. And this is what I don't understand, particularly when meat packing and pork processing plants were closing down, and suddenly now we saw this huge like weakness in the supply chain of our food supply. And it's just like, well, we got to protect the workers and stuff like that. It's just like, how many workers, not to be cold, but in actuarial, but like how many workers are we going to try to preserve if people start starving in mass? How are we going to move food from place to place? It's already bad moving across the southern border for the people who need to come into California and pick the fruits and nuts and all the other stuff that we need.
Right.
I think they don't understand. It's not that they're doing it on purpose. Don't attribute to malice what is simply just fucking incompetence.
I know, but that's where
I'm sorry. I don't. It's like maybe there's a certain Svengali out there that says like, yeah, maybe if we cause this chaos, we'll build a new world. No, even if those people exist, and even if you are correct, they're wrong about human nature. You don't want chaos. They want chaos, but I don't think they understand what chaos actually brings. Nothing raises from the ashes. There's going to be this unconstrained vision for which they tell us what to do, and they have a global currency, and we have all the market of the beast and stuff like that. That's not how it works. This is why, I don't think it's concerted, but no. I'll take that back.
Economic Forum, they predict
they are using this as they see an opportunity, and that is concerted. They're just like, oh, okay, well, this was an opportunity to push all these crazy agenda things. Even the things that we were talking about before when we were talking about wildfires and stuff like that, that is deliberate government policy that has absolutely no idea of the unintended consequences of not managing forests. So that's not on purpose. That is not on purpose. The fires aren't on purpose. It's the management of the forest that caused the fires that was on purpose. That is what I'm talking about.
Why not have one that's the narrative as to why bureaucracy works? Like, why even have a bureaucracy if you know it's inefficient? The whole point of having a Congress instead of a progress is because we want this inefficiency. The inefficiency allows us to be like, whoa, is this the right step forward? But now it doesn't matter if we're just getting orders and edicts, and if the rest of the world at the same time is also getting orders and edicts to pass their laws. So to me, it's like, how can it not be concerted when it's concerted? Like, how can it not be orchestrated when it's being orchestrated?
It's not really being orchestrated. That's the thing. I think it's just the only orchestration, in my opinion, that feeds into it is the fact that every one of these people and these elites that have caused all this bullshit think the same. That's the only concerted effort I've ever seen. Other than that, the ultimate outcome is always what they don't intend, because they don't have any fucking idea about human nature. That is their problem. That is the only thing they're in lockstep with, is this vision of how they can reshape the world, but not understanding the unintended consequences of trying to shape the world.
Right. And
they don't know that they're causing all kinds of havoc. And then there's like, well, here's another opportunity for us to enact our vision. And then by doing so, they're making things worse. But and the food supply as a whole is going to be third world countries are going to get fucked. I mean, this is obvious.
Yeah, they're all
in Beirut, I'd say Lebanon is already in a bad situation. Hyperinflation, they have war, and then this.
Places like Nicaragua and Uruguay and all they're third world countries, but they're actually in way better shape because they're, first of all, used to it. They've been in a famine situations for a long time, and also they produce their own foods. Like, they're still farmers, so we aren't in there. If our supermarkets run out tomorrow, what the fuck are you gonna do?
And you know what caused that? Let me back that up there. Let's talk about the food supply, right? So, okay, Congressman Thomas Massie has been trying to pass this act in Congress for a long time, but particularly after this kicked off, and we started running into issues in our supply chain when it came to food. Why can't I buy pork locally? Yeah, can't. Here's the deal. Because of the government regulation that said that you need to be a large pork producer or a large food producer or any sort of large producer with massive facilities that are FDA approved and go through inspection, and you can do what you want. And if you were a small guy, you couldn't fucking do it because the state's like, nah, you can't do it. So now we run into these issues where these regional distribution and manufacturing hubs have to be shut down because of COVID-19. So now an entire region of the country can't get motherfucking beef for Wendy's hamburgers. And that basically shows that's been the state for the last 100 years, slowly ripping away the ability for us to grow things locally and distribute things locally. And basic businesses like Walmart and supermarkets have been built on that. So yeah, was that by design? Well, no, yes, in a way, because we want these large distributors, or we want better food for people, right? We don't want poisons in food. But here's your rant.
Yeah.
There's still shit in food. The food's still shit because they're typically at central locations. We need to distribute. I believe in subsidiarity. I believe that every state should have its own board and its own places where you can get your fresh food. I should be able to walk up to a farm and be like, give me that cow.
Right.
I should be able to get me some fresh eggs instead of just having to barter under the table with some friends of mine at work and locally. That is one example where you're onto something, that it's a concerted effort, but it's a concerted effort based on this vision that they should centrally control and make our food safer. And what they've obviously done is they create these weak spots, and they've shown that these massive consolidations in this food supply have effed us long term. So, and now that's a global thing.
Right.
So like, you wait until like,
if it's not
third nations really start getting in trouble.
If it's not concerted, then explain to me how when Trump gets rid of the pandemic team and everybody says now that's the reason why shit's gone bad and he should be punished and all this other shit, yet nobody's talking about the decision that was made to get rid of our food surplus, our grain surpluses, and sell them specifically to China.
When did that happen in this particular? I'm not above believing that that's true, because we've done worse things. We've sold off a lot of strategic assets to foreign nations.
Exactly. I mean, we can talk about the roads that we're selling off. We can talk about in Texas. We can talk about a lot of the things that we've already been selling off. But how come we don't go back and address these things? Like let's just take so we don't get bogged down and you see how bad I am with the shit that I already have. If I don't look at this, I'll look at it forever. So, but no. What I was saying is like let's just say that's happened in the last 20 years, because I heard it once or twice recently, and I can't remember the exact time, but we can pull up the details, I'm sure, and I'll put that on the page. But let's just take it for what it is that's the case. How come we're not going back and talking about these decisions as we see these impending dooms? And how come nobody's really concerned? How come Americans aren't concerned about the economic impact of shutting down and what that means? Like, how are they bamboozling everybody to not be so concerned about that, but to be concerned about something that literally still to this day, with the inflated numbers and the CDC changes to the COD and all this other craziness that's going around, still has only a 0.3 estimated death rate? Like, that's in line with flus and other shit like that.
Probably 0.04 to 0.05 to be actually honest. I ran the numbers today.
I'll give it
it's
to
very
you.
low.
I'll give it to you.
Answer your question. Government schools. That's it. I mean, I can't stress to you enough how we send our children off to Rome and we wonder why they come back Romans. We wonder why they come back with these very silly thoughts. It's fear. It's this hypochondriac, like what we've instilled hypochondriac behavior in human beings. It's helicopter parents.
Right.
It's the media and the culture telling us that there are dangers around every corner. First you could drink coffee, now you can't drink coffee. Now you can drink coffee. Fat is good. Fat is bad. Bad is good.
Misinformation that's creating all of this, because it's not about like whether we can make good decisions or bad decisions, all this other. It seems like there's just so much confusion with the misinformation. It's like we don't have anybody we trust anymore. We already lost the trust in the government, let's say in the 80s and the 90s, and then all of a sudden the institutions that are the underpinnings of government and of our society, we're starting to lose faith in.
I will push back on the fact that people have lost faith in government. I think the indication of the fact that we have elected 2 presidents in a row that have been absolutely hog wild with executive orders and the very statist type of policies that they've implemented over the last 15 years proves to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that people still believe in democracy, that God has failed. And they believe in these institutions, even though these institutions have been proven and shown over the last 20 years, particularly in the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, that they can be weaponized, that they can be used against the citizen, they can be used against dissidents, they can be used against all these people. So no, I had faith like you that in the, particularly after the Bush administration, that people would have a lot more mistrust in the state. It just hasn't happened. If anything, this trust in the state has grown.
Right. It goes back to my very first episode, which is psychological warfare. These people have been fine-tuning the idea of group think and group thought for over 100 years. Like, this isn't.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
And this is why I think that they use that. And now they've taken over these very necessary institutions, which is the financial institutions, the healthcare institutions, the education institutions, and they're all owned by the same fucking people. So how are you telling me that it's not concerted?
Because I don't think they know or care about each other. You got to think, people who are willing to invest in things like finance, who are willing to invest in things like education and stuff like that, honestly, truly, are ideologically very different people.
Right.
Particularly people who deal in the arts versus the people who deal in the people who deal in the things that are intellectual property versus or non the bits, so to speak, and those who deal in atoms. They're both people who deal in atoms and manufacturing and hardcore stuff are typically going to be people who are right of center, and people who deal in the more creative aspects of our society, computer, media, culture, and stuff like that are typically going to be people who are on the left of center of the spectrum. Their elites both believe in this unconstrained vision of man. They may have completely different focuses of how to get there, but where you're right in a way is they do believe in this vision I'm trying to get across to you, this unconstrained vision. It's like, no, if we can make a new man. Like even in the Soviet Union, when they were creating this new United States of Socialist Republics or something like that, there was this idea of the new man that communists would create, or that any kind of collectivist ideology will create. Well, that is what we are seeing. And I think it only looks concerted because the left has been pretty consistent about this long march through our institutions. They have marched through all of our institutions. And so, and here we are. And so you're not, I see, again, we don't really disagree too much. I think I'm just not willing to go to the extreme, but to me, I think you're on the right track. You do understand that there's something concerted about it. I just don't think there's a centralized Spengali that's doing so.
Okay, well then I'll have another show about philanthropists and about how that has been the driving force, the financial sponsorship that has corrupted our discourse in as being humans. Like like we didn't have a role in saying, hey, we would rather have supermarkets as opposed to raising our own livestock and what the impact of that is. We didn't have a say so in TV being introduced as a medium. We didn't even have a say so in TVs going from 12 hours to 24 hours. We never have a fucking say so at the table to any of these cultural decisions, and we see a decade after decade afterwards of the real impact, and we never go back and analyze it again. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll try to get back at it. But the main difference is you think that this is just per chance, and I'm gonna always think that this is a concerted effort until being proven differently. So, anyways, guys, it's not a conspiracy theory, but it's a conspiracy. And corporations are legalized monarchies, and the corporate foundations and sponsorships are really having a profound effect on our conversations. And I think we need to really be really wary of where that's going to take us. And that's it, man. That's the show. Please show love to our sponsors, Flickwick. We got we'll just turn that down just a touch, but yeah, just visit our sponsors. Use the promo codes. We got ACTJ, KY5. We'll try to get some others. And then if you find any errors in what I said today, definitely throw them up on the comments, and then or send a message to the page, and we'll go out there and I'll send you a free Flickwick if you find something I said erroneous. But anyways, guys, we are the underdogs. So don't forget, man, visit all the affiliated show pages, subscribe, like, follow. We got KY5 Gaming. They got the greatest story ever rolled going on right now. ACTJ is always coming in with interesting interviews. The Nameless program is nameless and unforgettable. So anyways, visit TMI to stay up to date. And that's it. Take care and good night.